Welcome to Sacred Spaces Advanced School of Ancestral Communication. I am Queen Carlenia Springer, and I am speaking to my Afro-Rakanu and Afro-Kaitnut family, my African Black family, regardless of where we find ourselves on the planet. We are connected by our roots. We are connected. We are connected. We are connected. We are the mothers and fathers of humanity. And so there is a uniqueness about us, even though they try to make it like we are like everyone else. There is something that is unique about us. We are the only created humans on this planet. We find our roots in Mother and Father God. Everyone else finds their roots in us. That's a story for another time. But I wanted to just share a story with you from an experience I had yesterday. I was at the bus stop, and there was an older gentleman there, and I just asked him, did he see the bus I was looking for? Did he see that pass by? And he said no, he hadn't seen it. And so as I stood there, I heard him talking on and off and on. And I know enough to know that people would say, oh, he's talking to himself. No, you can tell when a conversation is going on, whether you can see a person there or not. So I'm not even going to say he was talking to himself, but he was talking. There was a conversation going on, and it was just me and him, and the conversation wasn't with me. And I have never asked, just like outright asked anybody this question before, but I said to him, I said, can you see the spirits? And he perked up and he said, yes. He said, can you? And I said, well, I hear them more than I see them. I've seen them, but I said, I hear them more than I've seen them. And we struck up a conversation right there. As a matter of fact, it was a gentleman that was walking on the other side of the street. He pointed him out and he said, oh, he can see them too. And then somebody else was coming up on the sidewalk on the side that we were, and he said, oh, and he sees them as well. And that was a young white guy, and I found that to be a little. I said, do you know him? And he said no. I said, how do you know he can see? He said, no, I can tell. And I said, wow, that's interesting, because I've seen him in the library, and he sat next to me, but he's never ever said anything. He's never ever said anything to me. So I just thought that was odd. Um, but he said, no, you can tell. You can tell when people see the spirits. You can tell when. Um, he said you can tell when they see them, to the point like it bothers them, because they can't even think. It's too much. And then he told me, he said, well, I take medicine for that. And I said to him, I said, it didn't stop you from hearing the spirits, right, or seeing them? And he said, no, it didn't. And he said, I talked to my doctor about that, and the doctor said, well, we can't give you there's nothing we can give you to stop that. Um, and I said, of course not. How can you medicate a spirit? That's just ridiculous. Now that's a way for them to make money. You can dull the senses in the body, but you cannot stop somebody unless you. How are you going to clog your inner ear? You can close your ears to the outside sounds. Okay, but we're spirit and we're human, and so the communication with spirit takes place on the inside. The human communication takes place on the outside. So there's ways that we operate as a spirit, and ways that we operate within the body that are different. They're complementary, but they're different. And it was so interesting, because he said, you can tell when people are like overwhelmed with the spirits, like they're hearing so many of them all the time. He said, if you just look at them when they look at them in the morning, look at how they're dressed, look at their hair, look at their appearance, right? And he was really pointing to the fact that they appear to be disheveled. And I told him, I said, no, you're absolutely right. I understand that. I said, but um, we're black. These are things that we see. We're supposed to see. We're not supposed to be blind. We're not supposed to be overwhelmed with the things that we see, but we are supposed to see in the spirit. That's who we are. But absent our culture, again, we have doors that are open, and we don't know how to. Some of us don't know how to control the information that's coming through, and we get into situations where we're in complete overwhelm and succumb to that overwhelm. So people would say, "Oh, you lost your mind," but within our culture, there are things that we do ritually to bring a person back. That does not require being on medicine for the rest of your life. So I'm not saying that, if you're on medicine, to stop taking your medicine. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that we cannot operate in the manner of other people and think that we're going to be okay. We are a people. We are the mothers and fathers of humanity, and we are spirit and we are human. And so, the same way that we can speak and receive information in the spirit is the same way that we receive information in the physical. I don't mean that it's exactly the same, but I'm just saying that we can see on that side and we can see on this side. But we live in a culture, we live in a society. I wouldn't even call this a culture. We live in a society that moves against who we are at our core. And who we are at our core is connected to Mother and Father God. And in this society, they don't want you to understand that. They don't want you to understand possession in any other form other than pure evil. They don't want you to understand that. They don't want you to know what that looks like. And so we should accept everything and we should accept everybody. Okay. We have children. We have children being raped. We have children being kidnapped. We have um, children who are taken by pedophiles and sex trafficked and all these types of things. And there are ways to detect who people are and what they are. There's a whole gay agenda. I might be stepping on some toes here, but you know what? Truth is truth. There's a whole gay agenda that has nothing to do with you if you are a person that is gay. It has nothing to do with you personally. It has to do with an agenda to usurp Mother and Father God, to erase the woman. White men coming to act as if they're women, and to dis to trying to discard women, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. At the library close to me, I now see that they built a new library, and this library has bathrooms where children, men and women, can use that same bathroom. And the thing that they're most concerned about, this is a whole gay library full of little children. The thing they're most concerned about is children going in there and vaping. I said, but what about the little baby girl that goes in there with a grown man that's a pedophile, or a woman that is a pedophile? But in this society, they would say, "Oh, don't judge anybody. You can be whatever gender you want. You can be this. You can be that." You don't understand. Those are doors that are open. People are open vessels for any spirit passing through, whether male or female. That's why sometimes people think they're male and then they'll change to a female. Then they don't know. They call themselves trans because one day it's this, the next day is that. We're dealing with spirits. We're dealing with spirits. We're dealing with disordered spirits. And I know it's very hard for our people because some of you, your children, and children are very open to spirit. And so we're not living in a community that teaches us how to protect our children from these spirits. And so when the child begins to have these feelings or thoughts and ideas, you love your child and you want the best for them, and you don't even understand what is actually happening. And neither do they. And what I would say to you is look for your child. If you gave birth to a baby girl and she now says she's a boy, you need to look, where did your baby girl go to? Or if it was the reverse, you need to find where is your child. There is a way to locate your child and to distinguish the difference between your child and a spirit that has overshadowed that child. This is we're talking, I'm talking to you from a cultural perspective. We have accepted things that are literally designed to take us down and to take us out as a people. Everything that they have done to try to commit genocide among our people, this is just one of them. And they've come at this not just spiritually, psychologically, but also biologically by the things they have put in the food and the water. I'm just going to leave this right here. There's so much more that I can say, but I just wanted to just give you a drop of information. This will only last for 10 minutes. So we'll have to continue this conversation another day. Ashe.